The hijab verdict has come from the Supreme Court, but much like public opinion around it, it is split down the middle. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Our big focus today is, of course, on the protests that have been a large part of our headlines for the last many months. Girls in Karnataka are demanding the right to wear their hijab inside the classroom. The Karnataka government has said no. Now the Supreme Court has a judgment, but it is a judgment that is split down the middle. One judge believes that the ban makes sense. Another judge believes that this entire issue is about choice, nothing more and nothing less. Justice Hemant Gupta and Justice Dhulia have two very different judgments, and the matter, of course, will now go before another, perhaps a larger bench of the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice will have to take a decision on this. The irony, of course, is in Iran. The world is watching as women are revolting against the hijab. But in India, the argument is still being made by the petitioners that this is an essential practice of their religion and hence an essential practice of their right to freedom as enshrined in the Constitution. How do we make sense of this dichotomous verdict? Is the hijab really about choice, as one of the judges have said? Is it about patriarchy? And what about leaving all of this aside, the right to education of these young girls? Let's introduce our guests on the program today. Joining us on the program is a lawyer, Analyst Tanwir. He's, of course, somebody who's worked closely on the case for the young women who have gone to court petitioning, and the legal team for the girls today, led by Sanjay Hegde, has described the judgment as a partial vindication of what the girls have argued. Also joining us is Zakia Soman. She's a women's rights activist who has led the fight against, in fact, triple talaq, was a key stakeholder in that fight for Muslim women to protest against triple talaq. Good to see you, Zakia. Also joining us is Hana Mohsin Khan. Captain Khan is, of course, a commercial pilot. It's good to see you, Hana. As always, Tavleen Singh, author and columnist, a trenchant critic of the hijab, is with us. Also with us is Gargi Nandi Roy. Gargi Nandi Roy is a political analyst. And finally joining us is a Major Firasat. Major Firasat is an army veteran, never wore the hijab during her stint in the military, believed that the uniform was the uniform, and started wearing the hijab after she, in fact, left the army. So thank you very much, everybody. Good to see all of you. Let me start with you, Zakia, if I may. I'll get into the legal comments later. But as a woman who's long championed for reform within the Muslim community, who's advocated for equal rights for Muslim women and Muslim men, how do you see today's judgment, and how do you see the larger debate, of course, around the hijab?
So you rightly put it, Barkha, that the split verdict in a way signifies the kind of polarized split society that we are today. You know, we are so polarized on every issue, and this issue also has been hugely politicized right from the word go. Although I believe that hijab is not at all mandatory in Islam, it is a patriarchal imposition. But at the same time, to deny education to the girls because they choose to wear hijab is equally discriminatory, and it is a violation of their right to education. It is a violation of right to privacy. It is a violation of the right to freedom of expression. And it is this whole controversy has been given life. It has been nurtured, I would say, in an atmosphere of divisive politics, which has become the scourge of our country in the last few years. And it is really sad that we are playing with the futures of our girls because we want to perpetuate a certain kind of politics. Like we have discussed this before also, Barkha. On the one hand, the parents will not allow the girls to go to school without hijab. And on the other hand, the school will deny them entry into the classroom precisely because they come in hijab. So who are the people who lose out in the bargain? It is the girls who lose out. It is their families who lose out. It is the community and our society and our country which loses out. But unfortunately, sacrificing the futures of the girls is a small, ahuti in the kind of politics that we want to carry forward in our country, unfortunately. And I mean, it's the kind of, I really feel ashamed at the kind of society we are. 75 years after independence, we are not able to ensure that our girls are able to go to
So, so,
school
so,
and
so, so,
acquire education. And we are finding,
so
so much.
can I jump in there? Though you're not a fan of the hijab personally.
Yes, not at all. Because I'm very clear, it's a patriarchal imposition. There is, Quranically speaking, also there is enough evidence to suggest that it is not mandatory. Commonsensically speaking, also, if it was mandatory, then all the crores of Muslim women and girls all over the world, since time immemorial, would have been in hijab. We know that is not the case. So it's clearly an imposition. It is clearly a very, very recent arrival in India and in South Asia. It arrived only in the last 2-3 decades, but that's besides the point. And I really, Barkha, we have discussed this on your show, if you remember the argument taken by Justice Dhulia, that it is not an essential practice of religion. That's not what is at dispute here. That was not the argument to be taken, I really personally feel. Is the argument is about discrimination despite of constitutional guarantees, and despite of the fact that in our country there is religion all around. There is religion. There are MPs who are sitting in parliament clad in bhagwa. There is a chief minister who occupies his chief ministerial office clad in bhagwa. So surely the parliament or a chief ministerial office is as much a public place as is the classroom. So to take this very, very technical argument and deny technical argument about uniform, as though uniform is everything that matters as far as education is concerned. Education doesn't matter. Uniform is more important than education. So this technical argument is a very, very flimsy kind of an argument, and I am sure it will not stand the scrutiny of the Supreme Court.
Okay. So let me just jump in here. Your view, in short, is that the hijab is patriarchal, but that should not permit politics that actually keeps young women out of school. The girls then end up becoming a victim of double jeopardy if indeed they are being sort of exposed to a patriarchal culture at home. Then there is double punishment, and in fact denying them the right to the classroom. Before I open this up, let me get brief comments from Anas, who argued for these women. Of course, your legal team today has described this as a partial vindication of what the young women have been arguing. But if you notice, the judge who actually stood up for the right of choice, Justice Dhulia, he also said something that you and I have debated quite often, that it was a mistake to frame this as whether this was an essential practice of Islam or not. He simply saw this as the right of girls to go to school. He said he's concerned with only one thing: are we making this easier or tougher for the girl child? So, Anas, do you believe that you made a mistake by framing this, initially at least, as being about essential Islamic practice?
Barkha, may I just correct you? Even on your show and in our petition, my whole thrust of the argument has been that the state does not have the power to pass such a GO, and this is not a matter of essential religious practice. Matter of fact, my senior Mr. Sanjay Hegde, who led us in these bunch of petition in High Court as well as the Supreme Court, his primary argument has always been that the court should not go into the question of essential religious practice and should rather follow the Ashwagandha rule, when we're on the premise of statutory, if on the basis of a statutory interpretation, if we can come to a conclusion, then that should be taken. So we did not frame it as an ERP question. There were other petitions that were filed in High Court that sought for a declaration, but even at that stage, High Court had the power to not pay heed to that. And our stand is vindicated. Our argument has always been that it is not a matter where essential religious practice doctrine has to be invoked.
So what happens now, Anas? What happens now to these women? They're still out of the classroom.
My request, and I'll be using this platform I'll be requesting the state government to show a little magnanimity. There is a judgment that puts of Justice Dhulia that makes it very clear that this whole thing that erupted, this whole controversy was pretty much unnecessary. The judgment was wrong. However, it is a split verdict, but the balance of convenience lies in the favor of the girls. They are the one who are missing out on education. So my request is to the state government to show magnanimity. Let these girls go to school. Let them follow their faith, because it does. I am a Muslim. I do not stop being a Muslim when I go to court or to school. If I believe, and if I have an honest belief, and Justice Dhulia, I've just been through like 20-30 pages yet, Justice Dhulia judgment clearly says that if it is my honest belief and it is not harming anyone, if I am wearing hijab and it is my honest belief, that belief does not stop at the gate of school.
Okay, unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately not because I sort of fully agree with you, but because I think girls should be inside the classroom. So hence, unfortunately, the minister doesn't seem to be paying heed to what you're appealing. I'm just going to play out for you the initial responses of the Karnataka Education Minister, who seems to suggest that the ban will stand till the Chief Justice is able to give direction now to this matter. Listen in.
As a democratic government, we welcome whatever the judgment we have received today from the Supreme Court. But we had expected a better judgment because, as you know that, throughout the world, women are demanding not to wear hijab, not to wear burqa. But there is a split judgment in the Supreme Court today. So whatever the Karnataka High Court had given the order, that is valid as on today. So we are going to follow the rules which are framed according to Karnataka Education Act in Karnataka.
So two things there. We are going to follow the rules that were framed. In other words, the ban will stay, at least for now, Anas. And secondly, Tavleen, he makes the point that women across the world are fighting for the right to remove the hijab. He expected a better judgment. You have been a trenchant critic of the hijab. But today, when you look at Justice Dhulia, the judge who stood up for the right of girls to choose, he kept emphasizing that all that should matter to anybody is how to make the life of a young girl easier in this country. That she's already saddled with homework, with other chores at home. Shouldn't the priority be, what's the bigger fight, Tavleen? To fight against the hijab or to get her inside the classroom? Tavleen Singh.
Both. I don't agree at all with him, because if it is a matter of education, then can we start educating these girls in a less religious fashion? If it is a religious garment, right, and you're wearing it because you feel closer to God, then, go to the church or go to the mosque. If you're coming into a classroom and every other girl there is not wearing a hijab, you stand out. Secondly, if it's a uniform, like the lady who was in the army, did she wear it when she was fighting a battle? Does the commercial pilot wear it on an aeroplane? What are we talking about here? I'm absolutely horrified by what is going on, especially since none of these women demanding, who are such passionate Muslims that they can't go to class without covering their faces, why aren't they speaking up for the Iranian women? Why have they there's been not one protest in a single Indian city, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I have no sympathy with either the girls or the judgment, because I really think that nobody, if Hindu girls started demanding that they wanted to wear saris in class and bindis and everything and made it a big religious thing, and that they wanted to do pujas to their death, I would have a fit.
But wouldn't you rather have them educated, irrespective of what they're wearing, so that one day they can get to make a more empowered choice for themselves?
If they're coming there with covered in veils, you are not educating them in a modern way. You are educating them. You are accepting that Islamic rules are so profoundly wonderful that they must never change. They should change. We have changed rules for Sikh women and Hindu women. And I think it's time Muslim women started to demand change instead of conservatism. I'm horrified.
Okay, you're horrified, and you've spoken about why Muslim women are not speaking up.
Can I just say something? I see that the lawyer, Anas, is putting his finger up. Last time he attacked me personally. I will not accept a personal attack. So
No, I think
please, yeah, no. I really don't want him to start charging me with motivation, etc., because that isn't fair. Make your case. You're a lawyer, but if you say anything personal about me, I'm not in the show. I'm out.
okay, that's fair. And I'm going to request everybody to keep this conversation only on the issues, no ad hominem attacks on anybody, please. That is my fervent request and intervention. Now, Gargi, hang on. Everybody hang on, because there are people on this panel who haven't spoken at all yet, and let's get them in. I want to go to two people here, Major Firasat and Captain Khan, both of whom have worn uniforms. Because remember, this debate started with the concept of a uniform. Should there be a uniform in school? This is not a hijab ban in other spaces of life. This is only about whether this ban should apply to the classroom. Major Firasat, you have worn a uniform as a serving soldier of the military. You never wore a hijab then. You wear a hijab now. Do you agree with this fight to wear a hijab inside the classroom, Major?
Ma'am, as I earlier also said, education is of prime importance. Going to the center of education with an intent of learning is important. As a student, how one want to carry forward. And secondly, being in the uniform, I was wearing a uniform. That is the dress code prescribed for the individual. And that is for serving the nation. Do not misinterpret me as a veteran and then a hijabi girl. Let these two things be very clear.
Okay, because explain that.
Yeah, if a person wants to join the service and give its youth to the country and save the borders, that is passion. And that makes us warriors, first and foremost. And people who join defense forces are from all caste, creed, community. They are people irrespective, I would reiterate, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, safeguarding the nation. Second, the issue of hijab, when you read it, and the judgment today is depriving women the right to education who come from menial classes and where poverty is maximum. This is a contradiction to Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Agar Beti Bachao is there for a poor father who cannot afford 10 fancy dresses, he sends his daughter in hijab. I'll give you the practicality. So for a father whose source of income is very less, just because he cannot afford 10 different types of dresses for the week, he sends his daughter with one burqa that the daughters wear it with a hijab. Probably the people in the panel might not be aware with the grassroots level poverty.
That doesn't apply to boys. That doesn't apply to boys.
Let us finish off with the hijab issue, ma'am. Let me finish off with the hijab issue. Secondly, when these girls, they're holding the books, they have actually fought half the battle in a patriarchal society for the right to education.
Yeah.
And they have walked at least going against the winds to get themselves educated, going up to the college or educational institute. Depriving them based on their dress code, it reflects the maturity levels of various managemental institutes.
Okay, hold on. I think you made a couple of very important points. One is that girls are already battling patriarchy. To double down on that patriarchy, to deny these are mostly girls from poorer families, then the right to a classroom is, in your opinion, Major Firasat, the contradiction of the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao commitment of this government. Captain Khan, you have a uniform when you fly. Right. Tomorrow,
yes.
If there was a colleague who asked for the right to wear a hijab while flying, would you support that as choice?
Yes, I would. And you would be surprised to know that there are many women who wear hijab and fly. And in our very own country, the reason why they do that, because it's a secular country and it gives me the freedom to wear whatever I want. If you Google, I'm not going to take names because I don't want to get them into trouble now. But if you Google hijab women pilots, you will get so many out there. All over the world, there are women. That doesn't stop me from doing my duties. And it is a prescribed, they have a logo and everything on it. So
I know. I've actually interviewed a wrestler who wears a hijab in Kerala, so I'm aware of that.
We were there together.
My question, yes, I remember. My question to you, Captain Khan, is this: choice. Choice is a very loaded word in our society. You know, when we think we're making choices, it's because we've been conditioned to think a certain way. I am extremely skeptical of anything which applies to women but doesn't in fact, apply to men, Captain Khan. So what would you say about that? Why one standard for women and one standard for men?
See, forget about okay, you're saying standards. Right now, there is a Supreme Court. There is a Supreme Court sitting. There are courts sitting. There are people discussing about what me, a woman, should or should not wear. I find that utterly ridiculous. I find it offensive as a feminist. I find that offensive as a human being, because I should be let alone to wear what I want to wear. And if you're talking about how people are protesting about hijab in Iran, and then they're talking about wearing hijab here, it again comes down to the same basic choice. You cannot enforce someone to take an hijab off or wear it. That is what women are fighting for all over the world. Leave us alone. We have brains, we have intelligence. These girls are getting educated. They're 11, 12. Have you met 11, 12 students these days? They are very intelligent. They know what they're talking about. They know what they want to do in life. There is a girl among them who wants to become a pilot. They know what they're talking about. These are educated women. If you're not going to give them the the freedom to choose how they want to dress, I don't know what we're doing here in 2022 discussing about what women should wear. I'm angry today that I'm absolutely like at one place men are sitting there and they're demanding women should wear hijab, and they're beating them up and they're killing them. And the other way, there are men who are trying to remove that hijab. And both way, I'm finding that extremely patriarchal. This whole debate is patriarchal. Why should anyone be bothered about what I am wearing?
I want to get Gargi in because she just hasn't spoken at all. And then we'll go around the panel for a second set of responses. Gargi, do you not think that both sides of this very polarized conversation are missing the point? We need girls in classrooms, right? We've actually seen a significant improvement in the number of Muslim girls enrolling for education. This number used to be abysmally low. This number has improved. I believe that no matter what you think, all of us should be focused on getting girls into the classroom. The hijab debate for me is a secondary debate. Gargi?
Okay, I'll come. Barkha, I think taking your point that institutional rights have primacy over individual rights. When you say, as you have already said, there is no blanket ban on hijab. See, I had gone to a convent school in Kolkata. Now there we were not allowed to wear bindi, bangles or mehendi. And let me tell you, in Kolkata, there is a practice of doing Saraswati Puja in February month, Vasant Panchami. In every schools it happened. We could not do it because it was a convent school. Now, we never protested. Our parents never said that our religious rights were infringed upon, because our parents chose to send us to a certain institution and we accepted that. So I honestly believe that institutional rights have primacy over individual rights. That is the first point. And secondly, I don't think it is about choice, Barkha. When you see 9-year-old little girls are wearing hijab, do you think it is choice? No, this is a radical Islamist imposition. This is a politics of radical Islamist supremacism. Let me tell you, I'm really horrified, like Tavleen ji is, that today when we see a feminist uprising in Iran, where men are fighting shoulder to shoulder with women against decades-long discrimination and repression, and they are fighting for equality and basic freedom. Here we see some radical Islamists are trying to impose because of their politics. Because few years back, same school, the girls used to wear uniform because it gives uniformity in the class. It does not make any discrimination among students. Today, those girls who are outside wearing normal dress, they want to come in the school with hijab. If this is not politics, what is? And where is the choice coming? See, when a girl from young age is told that if she's not wearing the hijab, she's somebody of low morale. So the CFI, here was the politics. CFI created this campaign, and the CFI, the Campus Front of India, put pressure on parents and students. So they were pressurized. Some section of Muslim families were pressurized.
Okay, hold on.
So pressurized to wear.
Okay, let me first go to Anas, then Zakia, then Tavleen, in that order, and then I'll come back to everybody else. So there's some order in the conversation. Anas, here's my question. I have asked you this before. Let me just ask my question, Anas. 1 second. Let me just ask my question. My question is, I am personally uncomfortable with anything that women are expected to do that men are not expected to do. This is across religions for me. I think too many people have used this as a context to bait Muslims, and of course it's not that for me at all, but as a feminist, I don't like anything that women are conditioned to do that men don't have to. So if men don't have to cover up to go to the classroom, why do girls? And if education is about teaching girls to think for themselves, then you cannot invoke choice if girls are made to do this from a very young age. How do you respond to that?
Barkha, your question requires a very long response.
Okay, no, we don't have a long time for a long response.
That is exactly
try a short one. Yeah.
That, because it will require you a very detailed teaching of religion and also of a little bit of history and other things. Right?
I don't think it should be about religion. I think women can question religion. All religions. All religions.
No one is stopping you from questioning the religion. As I said, this is not anyway the question of religion. It is question of my right. We are talking about constitution. Okay. And that constitution is a secular constitution. Thus, secularism is not irreligious. I'll send the copies of Constituent Assembly debates. I believe you all should be informed. Everyone should read them. Because it is not an irreligious secularism. It's a religious secularism. Freedom to every religion. Modern education does not mean irreligious education. That is a stupid trope. That who determines what is a modern education and what is not. And as someone saying that these girls only started wearing hijab, my clients have been wearing hijab since last 3 years. This is the fact. And as far as the PFI and CFI trope is concerned, this issue was raised during the hearing and the court asked the state to shut up about it. We don't have any evidence except for the state saying certain things. We don't have any evidence to that effect. So all these rumor mills keep on going. People know certain things from their WhatsApp forwards. They believe it to be true. And that is what is being repeated here. And nothing more than that.
Okay, let me bring in Zakia now. Zakia, you have that complex position. You have the position that you see the hijab is patriarchal, not a matter of choice, as Captain Khan and Major Firasat do. But you think the larger focus has to be on the education. Secondly, to Anas's point, a lot of people have started wearing the hijab recently. I think we are ignoring identity politics here, right? We are ignoring the fact that the hijab for a lot of women, whether we agree with it or not, is an assertion of an identity in an age where they feel the greater need to assert that identity. Zakia?
Yes. There is a kind of a revivalism and there is a need to assert identity, no doubt about it. But because there is also, one of the reasons is also there is quite an onslaught on the identity. All the symbols associated with the Muslim identity are under attack. Be it hijab, be it namaz, be it azan, be it madrasa. So, that's the kind of divisive politics which is going on in our country. But with a difference, Barkha, that the patriarchy in the Muslim community predates 2014. It is not something which arrived with the advent of the Modi government. So, and there has always been resistance from the conservative quarters in the Muslim community whenever it came to giving equal rights to girls and to women. So we have seen this in the matter of family. We have seen family laws. We have seen this in the matter of society. We have seen this in the matter of public positioning, mobility everywhere. So that has been a much larger malaise of patriarchy in the Muslim community, which has been totally ignored or sort of neglected by the so-called community leaders and by the politics of the day. And despite of the constitutional obligations, Muslim women have always received second-class treatment when it comes to Muslim matters related to Muslim family law. So that has nothing to do with the current politics of Hindutva.
But let me link that to take it to Tavleen. Tavleen, you're a trenchant critic of the hijab, but you're also a trenchant critic of Hindutva. And I think what you're hearing Zakia Soman say is actually a very, I think, a kind of solid argument. She doesn't agree with the hijab, but she thinks that the larger politics of Hindutva is making perhaps Muslims keener to assert old symbols of identity. She's not denying that patriarchy predated the politics of Hindutva, but she thinks there might be a revival, a greater energy behind these symbols that she thinks are patriarchal. Tavleen.
Look, if the Muslims were upset about the bulldozers, I'm on their side. If they're upset about namaz and all that kind of thing, I'm on their side. I cannot be on the side of putting little girls into veils to send them to school. I mean, I'm horrified every time I see a little girl all covered up and toddling around, I think it's offensive, and it's Arabization. It is from that we get radical Islam. And because of this attack on other Muslim things, which has been a terrible mistake, because if that hadn't happened, the Prime Minister of India should have said what Macron said, pas chez nous, not in our house. We should stand up for India's values, not the values of the Hindus or the Muslims or anything, because, secularism actually means that the state stays out of all this. But it was Muslim women who went to court. So, it's the courts are ruling, not because they suddenly decided one day that they were going to rule, as the pilot lady said, I'm embarrassed, etc. What is happening in Iran is a revolt against patriarchy, Captain. What is happening in India is the subversion in women of that right. It's patriarchy in a new form. I feel very bad for Muslim women that they have such bad leaders guiding them at the moment.
Okay, two or three very varying, layered opinions. I want to bring in Gargi, then Major Firasat and Captain Khan. Gargi, you have spoken about Islamization of culture. You have not spoken about the Hindutva that cannot be decontextualized from this conversation. Please also respond to the bulldozers, to the fact that FIRs are filed against people offering namaz, to the fact that a parliamentarian in the capital city called for the economic boycott of Muslims. You see, we cannot separate, unfortunately, the strands of this debate. We cannot. Feminism somewhere collides with larger identity politics.
No, I think there has been an Arabization here. There has been Wahhabi and Salafi Islam because of Arabs' influence that has grown in past years. That's why we see so many women in hijab today, which we never used to see before. And coming to, I don't think, see, if somebody is asking to boycott somebody, I will not support that. No, I don't support that boycotting. But I don't think you can compare that with this hijab. It has nothing to do with that. And bulldozing, I think mostly bulldozed were those properties which were on illegal lands, which were illegal infringements. So encroachments were bulldozed mostly. Mostly that was, but that cannot be compared.
Yes. That's actually not true. Let's be factual here. Tavleen, brief introduction. Yeah.
You cannot say that for the simple reason that if you make a list of the houses that were bulldozed after an act of violence, they are all Muslim. It's got nothing to do with illegal construction. Otherwise, the whole of Sainik farms in Delhi would have been demolished. All right? Let's not pretend that there isn't hate speech going on, which is offensive and ugly. But let's also not pretend that there is radical Islamization, which is also offensive and ugly. So let's not, be like the little left-wing, people, the Marxists that I know, have a strange connection with radical Islam, very transient in their criticism of Hindutva, never about radical Islam.
Let's bring in Major Firasat.
I think one 10 seconds, Barkha, what she said. See, radical Islam in recent years, we have seen how dangerous it can be when we have heard Sir Tanse Juda slogans and beheading of the likes of Kanayalal and killing of Umesh Kole. So we have seen the country burning because Hindus have not done that. Hindus at the most will go to the court. So there is a difference.
One minute.
You cannot equate the two.
Let us not, 1 minute. Any calls for violence are wrong by any faith. Extremism in any faith is wrong. I don't want to essentialize any religion. Let's speak with respect for people's religion. Let's please keep that boundaries of respect there. Once again, Gargi, I need to move on now. Major Firasat, I want to come to you. As having served this country as a warrior, today in a hijab, you're in many ways the complexity that people cannot understand and cannot comprehend. What do you think should happen going forward, ma'am?
Ma'am, if you see the Indian society and people say that it's quite odd for the people on general to see women covered their heads or covered with their body, calling it as just a medium of hijab, I would just like to say we all Indian women have been taught the concept of parda, be it pallu, be it ghungat, be it hijab.
But it doesn't make
It
it
is,
right. It doesn't make it
yeah,
right. It doesn't make it
yeah,
right that women have to, the onus of modesty falls on women. It doesn't make it right in any
absolutely.
religion.
We women never discuss which brand of cigarette men should smoke. So women should also be given we as women, we never discuss which brand of a cigarette a man should smoke. So men should not discuss what we should cover, whether we should cover
Okay.
our head, whether we should, like, which way we should live our life.
Okay,
Hence,
Captain.
this debate finishes off then and there. But if we see today's debate, let's keep our debate focused. Is today's judgment giving the girls the freedom to education? And that is what we should think. What does the society need to choose today? Whether education or whatever situations or customs that are made to follow.
Yeah,
For
I get your point. I do not have sort of the views that Anas has on the hijab, but I very much would want to see girls in school, and for me that matters above everything else.
That matters to us.
1 minute, but Captain Khan, the same question would be flipped around to the families, of course, in this case, saying, you mean you would actually choose to keep your daughters outside of the classroom than conform to a uniform of the school? They can come out of the school and wear the hijab. That would be the counter argument, as you know. And I know that on your Twitter feed, hang on, Anas, give me a second. On your Twitter feed, you've shared the video, in the context of Iran, where there's a woman, she starts off being in a burqa, and by the end of the video, she is completely disrobed. And the point she's making is, I can be this, I can be covered from head to toe, and I can be wearing just small clothes or no clothes if I want to. It's my choice. The men should lay off. I get that argument. But when it comes to comes to education, the same question can be given to the petitioners. That are you really valuing the hijab over a future education for your girls? What would you say to that, Captain Khan?
Well, I would say that if you were talking about, for me, this whole attack and this whole debate, it feels like a personal attack to, where I am forced to have this discussion where everyone is going to be talking about what I am wearing. For me, it's a personal attack to my individuality, to my choices, to my everything. I'll give you an example. My grandmother, she came from a conservative zamindar family, and she went to AMU. She was a double MA, and she was a principal of a college. The reason that she could study in AMU was that there was a parda system. Everything was, very safe for the women, and they were educated. Women came out educated from there. She was a principal of a college. I am her granddaughter. My children will be, will be educated as well. So if you're talking about education right now for those girls who are in hijab, if you're enabling the education for them, imagine their future generations also. Their future generations will be, so much productive for the society. So how are we taking that away from them? Forget about the choice.
I guess what you're saying is, I guess what you're saying is that without that parda, your grandmother would not have been educated. And today you are able to be who you are. You don't wear a hijab, but your focus would be on that.
My mother does. But my mother does, and my family members do. It is my choice that I'm not wearing it. Right, wrong. It's just my choice.
Okay, I put this question. Some of you have heard this clip before, but I do want more people in the audience to hear it. I put this question to Iranian activist who now lives in exile, Masih Alinejad, that is the hijab not an example of multiculturalism? What about the right to choose? Please listen briefly to what she said. I'm just wondering, when people say to you, Masih, the hijab is also a sign of multiculturalism or choice, what would you say?
I used to think the same. I can only share my own experience. I mean, I really don't want to judge other people, but I share my stories. I remember when I left Iran, I was here in the West. There was no morality police to beat me up and force me to cover myself. From the age of 7, when I was told by the government, by my parents, by the law, my community, educational system, and my religion, that if you don't go cover your hair, you will going to be hanged by this hair in the hell. Hijab cannot be a choice until the day that every single woman in the world have the choice whether they want to wear or not.
So last comments now, Anas, I'll start with you. One, I'd like to ask you legally what happens, because it's quite clear that Karnataka has made it clear the ban holds. So we're going to continue to see hundreds, I think, some reports say 400 young women out of the classroom. Two, the argument made again and again about the early conditioning, that this is not a free choice because it's early social and religious conditioning. Anas, last comments, please keep comments brief, please. Yeah.
Hi, Barkha, before I answer your question, I will like to, after I answer your question, I would like to read a paragraph from Justice Dhulia. It's a small paragraph, but a very crucial one.
Sure.
But most importantly, first of all, when you say that the parents are not allowing, that is very patronizing to my clients. My clients, by their own free will, they are not 14 or 13. They're in pre-university stage. It's by their own free will. They're doing their graduation that they observe hijab, and it's by their own free will that they've stopped their education because they were not being allowed to wear hijab. That's one part. Second, just let me read it, and I will be very quick on this. The question, this is Justice Dhulia speaking. The question of diversity and a rich plural culture is, however, important in the context of our present case. This is the time to foster in them sensitivity, empathy, and understanding towards different religions, languages, and cultures. This is the time when they should learn not to be alarmed by our diversity, but to rejoice and celebrate this diversity. This is the time when they must realize that in diversity is our strength. A very important and a crucial argument here is the question of diversity. Why should the school students be alarmed by a different looking student? Why should I be alarmed if I see a Sikh wearing a turban? And this diversity has been our strength. This is what some call as Indian culture. But what is the Indian culture? It's the diversity and the unity in diversity. So why should I look the same as you when I can be diverse and yet united with you? And that is the crux of the debate.
Okay, Justice Dhulia has some very, very powerful passages indeed, I think, in his judgment. But the ones, Gargi, that really stayed with me were about again, I keep taking it back. In this case, Anna says his clients are adults, but he spoke about the girl child and the obstacles that
I want to share something. 20 seconds.
Okay, go ahead. Last comments, Gargi.
Okay, because you spoke about choice and he is also speaking about choice. I'll tell you, it's not about choice. In our office, there was a girl, a graphic designer, Muslim girl. She never used to wear burqa or anything. After her marriage, she was forced. She refused, argued, then she gave in. So she used to come in a trench coat like thing and below the knee and with hijab half face covered. She would enter the office, throw everything out, pack it and put it in the cupboard, move around the office premises. We'll go to canteen, we'll go to the mall, Infinity Mall, everything, go down for eating, everything. Just going, while going back and getting into the rickshaw, she will again wear and go. So I have seen this with my own eyes. I just wanted to share it with Mr. Anas Khan. So, Mr. Anas Khan, it is not about choice. This is how women are forced to do this. So, if a woman, I asked her, you are going around in canteen and everything, only in your house you need to. So, this is why this is a true incident, Barkha, I wanted to share.
Let Major Firasat respond, because I think it's fair to say some women are coerced. Some women say it's my choice. Some women go through different journeys. Hang on, Tavleen, hang on. I'm coming to you. Major Firasat. Okay, Tavleen, give me a second. Yeah. Major Firasat, go ahead. Yeah. Major, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. You will not believe that this late hijab-clad major was in a swimming pool in the morning. See, hijab is never a restriction. It gives you the code of conduct, how you should behave at it, which place. It never stops a person from his or her personal growth, any religion for that matter. My concluding statement is the diversity of Indian fabric should be treasured. All cultural tolerance should be taught to the students in educational institute such that this pliant minds can then know what different cultures are. Today, what is happening? We are not giving the books of our actual beliefs to the children, and that's the reason they are confused themselves with lack of knowledge.
Okay,
they're not aware of the practices.
Okay, sorry. With respect, I'm short on time. I need to get Tavleen, Captain Khan, and Zakia. Tavleen, go ahead. Tavleen, last thoughts.
All right. To me, it's not about diversity. It's not about cultural freedom. It's about the repression of women. And for me, a repressed girl child can never be fully educated, because in the back of her head, she thinks, if I take off this, then and frankly, I'm shocked that these girls who went to court are, they want to be educated and all that, but they still feel that they're ready to give up their education because they're not allowed to wear the hijab. I mean, are they really that keen on being educated? They may as well go home and find a husband.
Now that's Anas. I let Anas briefly respond. He's saying, "Come on, I can see, I can lip read."
Yeah,
but maybe
he's
Captain
going to attack me. He's going
No,
to.
no one is going to attack anyone. No one is going to attack anyone.
He's
Captain Khan is coming in.
This is not a feminist argument, by the way.
Well, I think this should be a feminist argument, in part at least, on the hijab. For me, it is essentially that. Captain Khan, hang on, everybody. It's Captain Hana Khan's turn. Captain Khan, go ahead. Yes.
I would like to address what Tavleen ma'am just said, that, they should just stay at home and catch husbands. This is the kind of thing that was told to me when I was in 12th grade, and I was not allowed, I was discouraged from taking 12th science. And, they said that you people just will go home and get married. And here I am, a pilot. So this is a very, very offensive thing that you just said. I'm sorry, but it is.
Okay.
Then coming back to the argument.
Tavleen, briefly clarify, and then Captain Khan. Tavleen, can we unmute Tavleen?
A girl who is ready to give up her education because she's not allowed to wear the hijab, then what's the point of getting educated? That's my point.
Can I reframe the question? Captain Khan, can I reframe the question? I do not. Yes. I feel that at all costs, young women must be allowed access to the classroom. So that's my position.
Absolutely.
But let me reframe the question. But let me reframe the question. I think what we're trying to understand is, if you had to choose between your hijab and your presence in a classroom, the question being asked is, why would you choose the hijab at the cost of your education? That's the question there. The
question is, why should the girls be asked to choose between faith and...
exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Captain Khan.
Exactly what I was going to say, that this should not be the question at all. There should not be any question. This feels, okay, let's just put this same argument in someone talking about jeans. There was a woman that was killed because she was wearing jeans in a village. We are talking exactly the same way. We are taking away somebody's right to live how they want to live. You may think that they are, they have been taught certain things or whatever, but that is their choice.
Okay, I just want to say, in the end, Zakia, we are all products of some conditioning. It's not only Muslim women, like we're making it sound. We're all products of differing degrees of orthodoxies. I want to give you the last word. Zakia.
So change and reform is a time-consuming process. It's an organically driven kind of a process. It cannot be brought in from external bludgeoning. It cannot be brought in top down. So the girls have to be in school with or without hijab. But this kind of a politicization of this whole issue is not doing us any help to the girls or to the society or to the cause of education. So I feel here, we need to slightly divulge our extreme positions, and the parents owe it to the girls. The education institution also equally owes it to the girl. The education institution cannot behave like a political party and take a stand like, my way or the highway. I don't care about education, because the spirit in the new education policy and behind the right to education, which is a fundamental right, is about reaching out to the ultimate farthest marginalized child, and particularly to the girl child. So I think we all need to, give up our hardened and very extreme kind of positions and need to keep the girl child and her education in the center.
That is the bottom line. The center of this story has to be the future of the girl child, no matter what faith she comes from. It will be intriguing to see how the Chief Justice reacts to this. Will there be a larger bench? What will be the timeline? How long will the young women who are petitioning the court remain outside of their educational institutions? In the meantime, we have to end it here. Tavleen Singh, Gargi, Major Firasat, Captain Khan, Anas, and Zakia Soman. Pleasure as always to our audience. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.